Hi, everyone. My name is Briana Beltran, and this is my first upcoming school year being a fifth grade dual immersion teacher at Redlands Christian School in Redlands, California. This opportunity to have taken this course through Addalingua has been a huge blessing, and definitely I've learned a lot of things, but also it was a reiteration of things that I've learned in previous graduate classes, as I'm also a grad student. So it was awesome to be able to just learn, and honestly, it was a blessing to geek out with everything, with all the content. And I know that this is just like the foundation course, so I can't wait for what comes next in part two. And then later on in part three, as I know that everything will just sort of click together. But nonetheless, I'm gonna go ahead and share my final project. So, vamos. Bueno, y si puedo con esta cosa, porque a veces como con la tecnología, aunque me veo muy jovencita, como que no, ¿verdad? Vamos a ver cómo se hace esto. Más te hago clic. Ah, ok. Well, program fidelity. So this was our first module, first week, and the standard that I chose was our program promotes learning within and beyond the classroom that inspires global empathy, producing students that have achieved the three goals of dual language immersion education. Now, this was like a huge thing for me because I love seeing language, like learning languages, like as through a holistic lens. Because I always tell people, like, it's not for me, Spanish is my heart language because when I think in Spanish, I think like, man, like when I read like Gabriel Garcia Marquez or Isabel Allende or anything that's in Spanish in the native tongue, like I could feel the pain that they went through. And then I relate to Spanish speakers too. Like, when I worked with students from Guatemala, from El Salvador, I understood their heartache because I understood their language. So learning another language allows you to feel with the heart and not only listen with your ears, but it also allows you to, you know, hear with your heart. As cringe as that sounds, it's super true. And I mean, when Stephanie was talking about this in her first lesson, it was just so impactful, and I was just so inspired. And I just want to say thank you for that. And so what I thought before was that as a first time teacher, I had no idea what a bilingual classroom entailed. All I knew was that I had to speak in Spanish and teach in the minority language at all times. And I had no idea what the three goals of dual immersion um, education are. But now things have changed. Now I can confidently say that I know the three goals of dual language immersion education, which are cultural competence, academic achievement, and L1 and L2 proficiency. And yes, L1 means first language and L2 means second language. In addition, our students not only know and achieve these goals, but they also grow in empathy, and they begin to see the world through another language, which is a different perspective, and they begin to learn more than just the surface features. I mean, this is why it's always important to ask the parents, why are your students here, right? And then eventually, when the students get older, why are you in this program? And when somebody were to ask me why I'm learning Spanish, it's because, when first starters, it's my first language. I grew up bilingual. Um, I grew up speaking Spanish at home, and then I went to school, and it was like a dual language immersion program that was like for heritage speakers. So it was a bit different than this program is. But nonetheless, um, I know what it's like to be immersed in two languages, and I know what it's like. And for me, I decided to major in Spanish and everything is Spanish. My future husband is a Spanish pastor, everything because for me, I know that when I speak in Spanish, I can help somebody. I can help them know the gospel. I can share, like, and it's not a barrier. I mean, that's why I learned other languages. Like, I'm learning Italian because I'm like, hey, not just be it for pleasure, but also like, there are different extrinsic and intrinsic motivations. But for me, it's like, you know, how can I help another person? And that's why the why is important. And I just have to say, I mean, I love this. It was great. Probably has nothing to do with the final presentation, but all you say, cultural competence, academic achievements, and L1 and L2 proficiency, I got that. And growing in empathy, well, we're growing in empathy. We're watering the seeds of empathy, and hopefully we grow in empathy, right? All of us. Now, action steps, obviously, this is like so tentative, but this is what I kind of thought of was like collaborate with faculty, like, like ask, like, oye, maestra, how do you do this? Like, like I need to know, I need to be a sponge and I need to ask other teachers, like, hey, how can I do this? What has worked for you? What hasn't worked for you? Am I doing this right? Um, in teaching, you have to be humble. Like teaching and humility go hand in hand. Emphasize to my students the three goals, and also to the parents, also, and also emphasize global empathy. And I can do this by reminding the parents and by guest speakers who speak the minority language through real life. That way, my students can realize that they not only have the ability to understand what the person is saying, but also they are able to feel what they are saying. There's a heart to heart connection. And I already thought about this, like, having Spanish spelling bees, having one of my doctors from UNAM, the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico, to come and like talk about, hey, bro, I'm a doctor and I speak Spanish and I work also here in the United States. So anything like that, those are my three main steps, But first, collaborate with my faculty. That's it. Communications is of essence. This is like something that I presented in my first module, which is like totally tentative, but it was basically, how I would kind of lay out if I were to give out a presentation, the most important things of that I would like to relay to my parents. So go ahead and take a look at this slide. And dual language development. Again, phenomenal. And the standard that I chose was our program emphasizes expansive and accurate use of the minority language throughout content area instruction. And now, as a first year teacher, I thought that it was only okay to correct students on language arts. However, now I know that I can focus on the language in all of the content areas. So, for example, if in a math class a student says "yo no sabo," I can respectfully and encouragingly correct them, right? And I love that it's very precise. The standard is very precise because it's expansive and accurate use of the minority language. It's important to speak correctly, but also to teach our students the variations. So in my case, okay, don't not just teach them Mexican Spanish, but also Puerto Rican, or just give them a glimpse of the different variations in Spanish and to be accurate. I want them to be able to speak fluid so that they can, go out there and make a difference because words are powerful. Action steps, tools and resources. I really like the LIOPT mini lessons and the class contract and the corrective feedback techniques. I love it. Retroalimentación, ¿verdad? It's super important because sometimes as teachers, we're like, oh, I don't want to, I mean, especially me, I'm like, oh, I feel bad when I correct people because I'm like, they probably think that I'm like, you know, that I think everything, like, soy creída, ¿verdad? But that's not the case. The case is you want them to grow. As teachers, we're facilitators, but also like how I tell my students, practice promotes progress. Those are the three P's. And it's if I don't if I don't correct you, then I'm not allowing you to make progress. And as a teacher, like I'm failing. So it's always about how you go about it. And with love, you can share the truth with grace and love. So yeah, no harsh tone and try not to make a student turn red because I know whenever a teacher would ever was scold me, I'd be like the first one to look like a hot tomato, not potato. Anyways, these are examples, visual examples. Thank you to Addalingua because this is all from Addalingua in case it is not evidence. This is the LIOPT, the language of instruction only policy and timeline. I love that. I remember being in my Spanish class and they'd be like, en español, por favor. And I'd be like, sí, profe, sí. And then resource corrective feedback techniques. I just love the layout. Like, they give you different, you know, glimpses of how to go about it. Obviously, we can all add our toque personal. The classroom contract lesson, that video was phenomenal. Making my own, right? We try to be original while go based off of what has been provided. So thank you, Addalingua. Now, biliteracy and counterbalance instruction. Again, such a good moment. I love this module. The standard that I chose was our program faithfully implements common language targets specific to the minority language across grade levels as part of a strong literacy program. Now, what I thought before, I honestly had no idea that the language foci, I don't know if I'm saying it right, could be implemented in all content areas. I just thought that it would only be ideal to focus on language during language arts. And then I was like, oh, no way. I can highlight whatever I taught in language arts in math class, in social studies class. I'm like, oh, this like frees me. It makes me think like, oh, and I'm always doing connections, but I'm like, is it okay to do connections while you're teaching? And I learned that, and I'm like, yes, you can make connections. Obviously, not like cognitive overload connections, but yes, definitely, highlight those connections because then students are gonna be like, oh man, that's what we learned in language arts class, and it's here in my science book, or it's here in my history book, and it's here in, math. Math is already problematic, no pun intended, but when you find something that makes your life a little easier in math class. Anyways, yes. So action steps. I totally loved the plan provided. Again, Addalingua, thank you. The language first counterbalance instruction cycle. And I will use this plan, try to plan ahead, try to be flexible, and seek out wisdom from fellow teachers. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Progress monitoring. Stephanie, just gotta say your idea with like the sticky notes. I'm a sticky notes person too. So like I'm totally gonna borrow your idea. Not steal, I don't like that word, but borrow. And add my own spiciness to it. So yeah, the standard that I chose was our program follows a data protocol to evaluate student growth. I love that growth, not perfection. In the primary languages of instruction at each grade level to inform instruction and program level decisions. What I thought before, again, I had never heard of a formative assessment, and I had no idea what this entailed. Um, in my courses, I'm a grad student. I have taken, classes of second language acquisitions, and I have heard of like assessments, but never like this, like in every content area, and like still focusing on the language foci. Um, so yeah, I just really like the way it was presented in this module. Now, what I think, now I have a bit more clarity and understanding. Formative assessments assess learning and make sure to highlight when learning is being put into practice. So like, hey, the student did this, the student did that, or maybe the student wasn't able to fully apply that, and we can like, try to eliminate the errors or try to like make sure the students grasp it, right? Now we know what as teachers, we can use these formative assessments to reflect. Reflection is of essence. And all throughout the day, in the different content areas, teachers can involve students and ask them to highlight the minority language word features observed and how they can implement the language foci in the various content areas. This means I take time to go around and check in with my students, and it means I emphasize progress and not perfection. So action steps. I would love to use the tool again. Thank you, Stephanie. Share because I absolutely love taking notes, and I think it makes the assessment less formal. So like, imagine me like going around with the computer. Like, I feel like that's like totally like almost like Terminator. Like no, like that causes a lot of anxiety and pressure for students. So yeah, and the subject area I loved. But this was kind of what I put in my assessment. So I would definitely like, I love how it's organized and makes things a little bit more like, so as teacher, as I could be like, okay, this is what I'm teaching in language arts class. This is a grammar. This is a word feature. Like, let me see how I could blend all of this. And if it doesn't blend, let's see how I could somehow connect everything together. And that way we can, elevate the minority language and, focus on the language. And this is like the checklist that I kind of made, which was like with the help of Addalingua, grammar focus, word feature. For some reason, I wasn't able to like completely put it on the table like how it was, but this is kind of how I would do it. Obviously, I have to put my three P's there. Um, Note if the student demonstrated the use of language focus throughout all the content areas. If they didn't, know why after talking with the students. And I also like how ask the students, think of one way that they can grow in their use of the language vocab this week. And I just think it's kind of cool and involves them in their learning because learning should be fun. Sometimes it's stressful, but you know, it should be fun. And anyways, thank you so much for listening to me. And como dice el dicho, el que persevera alcanza. That's what my abuelita would always tell me. And you know, yeah, thank you so much. I really hope that you guys have a good rest of your day. And thank you for all that you're doing, for all the hard work that you guys are um just putting into this program. I'm pretty sure it's impacting a lot of teachers, and if it's impacting a lot of teachers and a lot of directors, and it's impacting the lives of students, and the students are our future. So thank you, and God bless.